Alright everyone, welcome to Wednesday's video. Let's talk about Celtic then. But first, a message from Stevie from his holidays. I knew this was going to happen.
Good morning, Hamish. How are we? Celtic A.M, live from Venice. Tenant Super as well, don't worry about that. What a place though, Hamish, it really is. I guess when I think back on it, I guess we're just doing this video to get Celtic A.M out there in the Republic of Italy. I've been going about everywhere, asking people in any green top, in any green and white pattern top, to watch Celtic A.M, just subscribe to the channel. Do you know my good friend Hamish Carton? By the way, you'll be absolutely stunned to hear this, right? Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who you are, and nobody knows who the channel is, but I asked a couple of people, mate, and that's all matters, isn't it? What's been happening? I mean, we did that terrible video, certainly from my point of view, in Glasgow, after the game. Again, thinking back to it, it really was... got to question my mental health there if I even bothered to do that in that weather. Anyway, managed to make the flight to Venice, Hamish, and thought to myself, I'll go into a couple of pubs that show sports and there's football news. Maybe, just maybe, I'll go in and I'll hear a bit of Celtic signing. Maybe I'll actually put Wi-Fi on in the hotel, leave the phone in, come back to it after a few hours and Celtic will sign somebody. Or maybe there'll be some outgoings, actually, fully outgoing. Nothing's happened. I'm shocked at this, I really am. I'm going to take a drink for every time I'm absolutely shocked and stunned at this news. Really should be doing there by the time we do this video. We're not going to waste your time too much. Matt O'Reilly apparently going to Brighton, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if that one drags out. And I think the big priority is before the game on Sunday, which I will be back for, sadly. Really should be getting a striker in by now, so again, imagine my absolute shock and amazement that we've still get one in, because all we've got is Kyogo Furuhashi, who, as we know, went down uncomfortably on Sunday. And anything could happen between now and then, I guess. So I'm going to have another drink while we've not brought in a striker. Again, amazed by that. Aye. Going to be boat trip tomorrow to Barano. I'll try and spread the word, and I'll try and maybe get some sources there, Hamish, to tell me if there's any obscure striker that we can possibly be linked with to bring over to Glasgow, or I can bring over to Glasgow, don't worry about that. But for the meantime, right, I'll let you go. I've had a few drinks, I'm talking a load of crap, and really the aim for this video was just to let you know that Celtic A.M has now reached the sunny shores of Italy, and that was one of the objectives, wasn't it? To, well, hopefully Celtic go further in Europe than this bloody channel does. But I better keep my voice down because I'm in this hotel balcony and people have got windows open and all that, and the last thing I want is a hotel manager coming up here screaming at me going, "What you doing?" And I'm like, just being a video for Hamish when I don't really need to, you know what I mean? Anyway, as always, probably catch you after the Hibs game or maybe the midweek after that. Tenant Super and me basically say, don't worry about that.
Great stuff, Stevie. What was that? Over 3 minutes of chat just to rub it into me and everyone else that you're drinking beers on holiday. Yeah, very good, mate. To be honest, he deserves it. He works very hard, that guy. Or is it hardly works? I'm not sure. See, to be fair, the fact he was standing in the rain on Sunday doing a video while I was warm and dry here, absolutely fair enough. Hope he's having a good time. Certainly seems from that video like he's had a few beers. Tenant Super, I've never actually had it. It's seen as quite a classy drink in Italy, apparently, and it's very popular. So, yep, Stevie certainly bringing the classiness of Tenant Super down. But as I say, glad he's enjoying himself. That will be your only helping of Stevie on the channel this week. But I will be joined by someone else tomorrow in the Stevie slot, so to speak, for a chat about what's going on at Celtic. So tune in on the channel tomorrow for a new face. Prior to coming on, I came across this tweet from the lovable rogue. not really. Jake Humphrey showcasing the dressing room. I assume it's the dressing room at Celtic Park. For those of you listening on the podcast, remember you can do that by being a member of the channel. You know how to do that. It says world-class basics in the Celtic dressing room, which I guess is a bit of an oxymoron, is it not? I guess if you aim to be world-class in the basics of life, you can't go far wrong, eh? Only kidding on, I'm not a dick. Well, some people think I am. They don't really tend to watch the channel anymore, though, and their team sit, still 8th in the league, so we don't hear from them quite as often. Anyway, great start. What's happening transfer-wise at Celtic? Not a lot, everyone. News on Stephen Welsh from Sky Sports' Anthony Joseph. He tweeted yesterday to say Celtic have told KV Mechelen that Stephen Welsh is not available for a transfer at this stage of the window. The Belgian Pro League club made a loan offer for the centre-back. Celtic are still assessing their centre-back situation and don't want to lose Welsh at this stage. I think when it comes to chat about guys like Stephen Welsh, it is worth just remembering what the UEFA homegrown quota is and why it's important to Celtic, because you hear quite a lot of people saying, like, why are we keeping guys like Stephen Welsh and Anthony Ralston around the club? We should be aiming higher with these players. And there might be a fair bit of kind of merit in what people are saying generally, but I think the homegrown quota, the UEFA homegrown quota is a huge part of why guys like Stephen Welsh, kick my mic about, why guys like Stephen Welsh, Anthony Ralston, Mikey Johnson perhaps are kept around the club, because they do help us out with this. Just a quick explanation of what's going on if you're not familiar with this. By 11 p.m. on September the 3rd, Celtic will have to submit our squad for the UEFA Champions League this season, and that'll boil down to 2 different lists, List A and List B. List A is up to 25 players. List B has no limit on numbers, but players included have to be born in 2003 or later, which obviously rules out, I think, virtually all of our actual first team players at the moment. So yeah, List A is the big one, and of the 25 players that will register on that, 8 of them must be homegrown. 4 of those 8 must have come through Celtic's youth academy. The other 4 kind of come through another Scottish club. And I was taking a look at the players here, and I reckon at present we're looking at Callum McGregor, James Forrest, Anthony Ralston, Stephen Welsh, Mikey Johnson and Adam Montgomery as 6 club-trained players. So they've all come through our youth setup. And then we'd have Greg Taylor and Scott Bain as 2 association-trained players. We have lost David Turnbull, who kind of was quite handy for that association thing. Now that would keep us right. There's 8 players there, but there's not much margin for error if we lose one of those players. For example, Stephen Welsh or whatever. And if we can't name 8 homegrown players, say we only manage to name 7, then the squad could only be 24 rather than 25. So it's kind of the squad size is cut accordingly depending on how many homegrown players you name. So basically my point here is that guys like Stephen Welsh are very important to this. And I reckon if he wasn't a player who'd come through the Celtic Youth Academy and he was in this current situation, he would almost certainly have been allowed to leave by now. It's a shame for Stephen Welsh, because I think he'll want to get out and play football. He loves Celtic, absolutely loves Celtic. If he wasn't playing for us, he'd be up in the stands supporting us. But equally as a footballer, he'll want to go out and play football. And it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, certainly this season, barring some sort of horror injury run that I certainly hope doesn't happen at centre-back, but I guess it happened last year. Also mentioned yesterday by Sky Sports, just a couple of wee bits. There may or may not be something to these. Gustav Lagerbielke has interest from Italy. I think there is something to that. It's been mentioned a fair bit. St Mirren reportedly wanting Yuki Kobayashi as well. So they're going down the Japanese route after going down the South Korean route last year. With Kwon, they're looking at Yuki now. So that would be an interesting one if it happens. The other centre-back thing to mention is that Brentford have seemingly launched a bid for Dara O'Shea. Now, it's over a month since we launched our raid for O'Shea. That doesn't seem to be going particularly well. There is still time for us to get a partner in for Cameron Carter-Vickers, which, as well as Liam Scales played at the weekend, I think most of us feel that we'd want a new centre-back in as well. So that's all ongoing, and as I said yesterday, moving at a frantic pace. You really can't keep up with Celtic's transfer business this summer. The other thing mentioned yesterday was a trading update from Celtic to the London Stock Exchange. This is it here, and it reads: Celtic has enjoyed a strong on-pitch performance in the 2023-24 football season, having won the domestic double. In addition, it has enjoyed a successful year in generating gains from player trading. As a result of such gains and a strong end to the season from a footballing perspective, Celtic now expects earnings for the year ended 30th of June 24 will be significantly higher than previous expectations, which were formed before the conclusion of the season and prior to certain player disposals. Player registration, valuations, and blah, 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 blah. I don't need to read all of that bit out. And yeah, I was kind of looking back because it rang a bell when I was reading that, and the club did actually release an almost identical statement to this in July of last year. The results for the year were then released in mid-September. That will be the case this time as well. In February this year, they also released financial figures, and this is where I probably need to get someone on to explain all this to me, because I struggle with why they're releasing different things at different times of the year, but that's just because I've not got a financial background. But in February, they released financial figures showing that we had £67 million in the bank. Last year's financial figures had revenue at 120 million for last year, which I believe was a club record. I think we're going to see similar numbers to that this year as well. So the club are cash rich, and even a look at the share price over the past couple of years shows a massive jump in recent times. On the right hand side, you probably heard people talking about that. I'm definitely going to try and get someone on the channel to explain what all of this means to a Jens layman like myself. Hope you got that one. The money is there, and now we as supporters just want to see that spent on a team that can finally go and get some sort of positive results consistently in the UEFA Champions League and really show a bit of ambition. I know one argument that some people have, and it's not necessarily that they agree with this, but they're just putting forward a reason for the club not spending this money, and I think there is a fair bit of merit in it, knowing how the club think, is that basically the club are saving a bit of cash for when the time comes that we don't have regular UEFA Champions League football. And basically the idea would be that when that time comes, and it inevitably will, that there would be less of a drop-off from what we have at the moment, if that makes sense. So we would basically be stockpiling a bit of cash for when we don't have Champions League football, and it would maybe mean we don't need to sell players, etc. If that's what the club are doing, I don't know about you, but I'll be pretty frustrated. Because we all want them to show ambition at this stage and be really positive and on the front foot rather than a kind of defensive conservative approach. Why not try and build a team that can be in the UEFA Champions League virtually every season, rather than almost admit defeat and go, we're not going to manage all the time, but let's keep cash for a rainy day. It wouldn't surprise me, because that's how the club think. We know that in years gone by, and I think it's still the case, the club budget for the Europa League and not the UEFA Champions League. Some may say that makes financial sense, but for me there's a difference between being as kind of negative and pessimistic in your thinking. There's a big difference between doing that and doing what our rivals did a number of years ago and going bust. You can have a middle ground where you show a bit of ambition and spend some money, and the club are going to have to spend money between now and the end of the transfer window. I know it's not necessarily about the money spent, it's about like the quality of player brought in, but generally speaking, and we've said this a number of times recently in the channel, to get the real game changers for Celtic these days, you probably do need to go to that £6-7 million level like we've seen with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota. I'm well aware not all players are like that. We've secured a fair few bargains. Matt O'Reilly, Rio Hatate are the obvious ones. But I think generally for players who are ready to go and make an impact in the UEFA Champions League this year, you're looking at spending £7 million on at least a couple of players, left back, centre back, probably Adamida as well at this stage. I still think that's a deal that's going to happen. So yeah, we're in the same place. Celtic have a hell of a lot of money. That's not going to stop them coming with their hand out and asking all of us to pay a bit more for tickets and give them even more money. And at the moment, they're not necessarily spending that money on the thing that really matters, players. But they've got time to fix it, and we all know what we need. I might just repeat this every single day. Centre-back, left winger, forward, Matt O'Reilly replacement if Matt O'Reilly goes. So that's where we're at. Tens of millions of pounds in the bank. No real transfer excitement. But as I say, tomorrow is a new day and there'll be plenty to chat about at that stage. Now, I should just say before I go, we're not a million miles away from 9,000 subscribers now. Feels like we've just got to 8 recently, but we're going for 9 now. This is how many of you aren't actually subscribed to the channel. Still, remarkably. So if you're watching this and haven't yet subscribed, please do consider doing so. And you can do it right now because the video's over.